All right. My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at approximately 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comments. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commissioners, Delia, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the May 18th NRC meeting. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Greg?
Greg Higgins.
Gary?
Gary Kleinman.
Nick?
Nick Pappas.
And Sarah.
Sarah Grimwood.
Thank you all. All right.
Ed, if I may, we can't
Yes.
see you and Greg. And I think it might be important to see you
We could
at
slide
least.
down. I want to slide down one chair.
What if we do this?
Ah.
Oh, that's better.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay.
Maybe the other view's better. All right. We'll go to the first agenda item, which is approval of meeting minutes. I think as I recall, on the March 16th, both Gary and Sarah would be recused because they were not there. So it would be Greg, Nick, and myself voting on those this evening. I did not have any comments on the March 16th minutes.
Nor did I. Nothing.
Okay,
I make a motion to accept March 16th meetings as submitted.
Second.
thank you, Nick. All right, the vote, Nick,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Next item agenda is just commissioner comments. Anything to discuss this evening from the commissioners? I do note that Gary, you brought up an issue on the tree policy that is evolving at the commission, if you will. And there's a couple of hearings this evening that will, have some tree issues with them. And it's really just the approach of that while the policy is emerging, if you will.
Right. Until we've sort of settled what our policy is, it just seemed a little premature to start implementing some elements of the policy, but we can discuss it in the context of the cases.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up so that, that's for discussion downstream, if you will. All right. Delia, director's update.
Just a couple of things you saw on the table. The garlic mustard poll is underway. We are doing that jointly with the Concord Land Conservation Trust. The dates are May 7th through May 15th. People can sign up here, put on the map where areas that they would like to pull. We'll provide bags and we will pick those bags up and dispose of the garlic mustard. I think last year we pulled we collected 129 bags. I think that's right.
Wow.
And so we're looking to increase that number. Yeah. Janet Rothrock at a nurse stack collected 25 bags.
Wow.
Yeah. So she's a trooper.
I don't want to live near her.
She
maybe I
does
do.
engage a lot of volunteers. Carlin Reed was also part of that effort and others as well. Town meeting, I think you're all aware that Article 25 passed for the $500,000 placeholder for the Aspet River Bluff acquisition. We also received notice from the state that the Land and Water Conservation Fund application has been approved on a state level. So that's $500,000,
Wow.
which is tremendous.
Yes.
Now goes to Washington for National Park Service approval. So that does mean that $500,000 that was approved at town meeting will be returned in full to the town.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
It's just a rubber stamp down with the federal people.
pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
They just will look for additional information, recycling of some of the current information.
Yeah.
But the 26 applications, 12 were approved and we were number 6. And that's pretty good for Concord because there's a lot of points that are awarded for environmental justice, which
Yeah, hard to
we
do.
will never hit that.
Yeah.
So we were pretty excited.
That's exciting.
And Natural Resources will host a migratory bird walk on that land with Peter Alden on Sunday, May 22nd from 4 to 6:30 p.m. So if people are interested, meet at the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail just across from Junction Village before the bridge over the Assabet River. I don't know if any of you know Peter Alden, but he's terrific. And he did a couple of walks on the property to just bring awareness to the parcel as we were sort of moving towards town meeting, and they flushed a great horned owl and they had a red-tailed hawk, and so they've had some pretty good sightings so far. But you get the spring migrants. There's also a lot of shorebirds and water birds that you can see as well, just with the proximity to the river. So
Will that be advertised elsewhere? Okay.
probably not. I mentioned it at the conservation coffee yesterday, and we used to put articles in the journal when we did the bird walk, but the journal is.
If you want to keep it a secret, keep it.
It might be on his, Peter has started a Spark birding website,
Oh,
which is
okay.
well worth checking out. He does offer lessons and tutorials, and there's a lot of information on his. If there's a newsletter that comes out, it's called Spark Birding. So it's,
Great.
yeah, that's it.
That's it. Thank you, Delia. All right, I think we have 3 continuances to May 18th and one continuance to June 1.
Make a motion. I move that we continue to May 18th without discussion, DEP file number 1371598 and DEP file number 1371597.
We got one more on the back side too.
There's one more that was added, yeah.
Yes, Parkland was also added, Gary.
DEP found the 137-1595.
Here's the updated agenda. I think.
Yeah,
Flip that up top.
DEP file 1371595, Cowell 228 Park Lane.
Second.
All right, and we'll take the vote. Gary,
Aye.
Greg, aye. Nick, Sarah,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well.
I make a motion to continue without discussion, DEP file number 1371578 until June 1st, 2022.
For a second.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. And the vote, Gary,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well.
Just a question on that one, Delia.
Yep.
That's been hanging fire forever.
Which one?
Black Duck.
Yeah.
It's like a year old.
Yeah, they are having lots of conversations with their architect and their wetland
Oh.
scientist and their
But
engineer and
there's something happening.
the engineer was just in today.
Oh, okay.
It is, progress is being made slowly. So we do really expect it's going to come back June 1st.
Wow.
Coming down.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll have our first continuance of the evening, 286 Barrett's Mill Road, DEP file number 137-1590. And obviously we were out there on a site walk recently, so I think we have a pretty good understanding of the project and how the site works. So if Andrea is going to be leading us off, Andrea, if you could just touch on the highlights, that would be great.
Great. No, I appreciate the commission site walk. I thought that was very productive. I just wanted to give a brief summary of the revisions, and then I'm going to pass it to Ben Minix so he can describe more of the stormwater related components to it. In the mitigation area, we increased the.
Sorry to interrupt, Andrew. We don't have that one loaded up. If you could, can you share your screen?
Absolutely, thank you. Okay. So I'm going to just scroll down to or up to the mitigation area. Oh, wrong direction. I apologize. While I talk, here we go. This is the mitigation area on plan right of the pool, and the plant densities and the plant quantities have been increased. And just a brief summary, from the 27 shrubs that were previously proposed, we've increased that to 74 shrubs. The 3 trees were increased to 4 trees. The 20 Joe Pye weed was increased to 101 specimens of Joe Pye weed, excuse me. And then the hay-scented fern is increased from a square footage of 488 square feet to 774 square feet. And what's being proposed now for the hay-scented fern is more of a sod. So the planting densities are often greater than the 1 foot on center that's been asked of. So that's that in a nutshell. We've also expanded the mitigation area a little bit into the BVW boundary, where there are some specimens, small specimens of invasive species. So the intent is to dig those specimens out by hand and then replace with a number of wetland plants, shrubs. Any questions on that before I move on?
No,
Great. In terms of the tree mitigation, I did provide some clarification on that with the addition of additional trees. So for the removal of the 11 trees within the 100-foot buffer zone, the project is currently proposing 3 black tupelo, 5 eastern hemlocks, 3 red maple, and 8 flowering dogwood. So that number does exceed the 11, but considering that the dogwoods at full maturity will be a smaller caliper than the trees that are being removed, which are the eastern hemlocks, we felt that would be important to propose more in the long term, larger stature trees. So that has been updated within the buffer zone, well, excuse me, within the riverfront area. There are 2 additional, let me clarify, within the riverfront area, there are 2 additional eastern hemlocks being proposed that are outside the 100-foot buffer. And just want to make a point that the trees that are within the mitigation area are not included in this tree replacement numbers. I'm going to skip a little bit in terms of the Eagle Brook plans, but the rain garden has been relocated outside the 50-foot no build zone. The term vegetated has been further defined on the plan set. The periwinkle that was previously proposed as ground cover will be replaced with meadow anemone. The comment regarding the soil preparation amendment has been further clarified so that if suitable topsoil is not encountered after the removal of the lawn, then it will be amended with organics, organic soil. Regarding the footbridge, which I think will be a little bit more of a discussion piece, I wanted just to move up to that here. The wetlands, actually this plan doesn't show it, but the wetland delineation around the river here and was added and delineated. There's a very small fringing BVW along the footbridge here. So that has been done. The overall footprint of the boardwalk has been reduced. The overall length of the footbridge has been reduced from 55 feet to 40 feet. The width of the footbridge was reduced from 4 feet to 3.5 feet. Right now, we are pending approval of the structural engineer. We are showing that there is a mid-support on the concrete spillway. And there is a reduction in the overall number of helical piles, both within the buffer and within the water. I will add that we received some preliminary feedback from the structural engineer that there needs to be some additional investigation to understand what kind of footings these concrete walls have in order to support this. And I believe in order to understand what lies below the surface, there might have to be some excavation. So I don't think it's, unless someone from the project team can correct me, I don't know if it's going to be a viable option to utilize the current concrete as any kind of support system. So if we go with this current layout, there may be a need to add a couple of more helical piles, but I will add, the final design of this still needs to be coordinated with the manufacturer and such in terms of the final and the structural engineer. So that still needs to be coordinated to support the final design. But this is the concept currently in terms of the configuration and length. So I think we have some assurity on that. Any comments on that, Delia? I did receive your email comments. So I don't know if you want to touch on that, and we're happy to dive into that piece.
Okay, so that concludes the highlights, if you will, Andrea?
From my perspective, do you want Ben to now talk about some of the stormwater pieces?
Yeah, if he wants to touch on that, that's fine.
Great,
Sure,
I'm
I
gonna-
certainly can, unless you have other questions you want to go through that now before we.
We'll come back on just
Okay.
the general.
Okay, I'll share my screen as well. Okay, you should be able to see the new
Yep.
site plans.
Thank you.
Okay, so as requested during the previous meeting, was for us to develop civil engineering site plans. So we did resubmit the existing conditions plan. So that's this first sheet I'm showing. Nothing's updated on that. It was just easier to do it on the new sheet. So sheet C2, I'll just go over this red area here. And Andrea mentioned that the mean annual high water line and BVW was flagged around the proposed bridge area, and that's reflected on these civil plans. So I'll just show a quick picture for anyone wondering. In this photograph, we're looking across the proposed walkway area back towards the yard. So you'll see the blue flags is the mean annual high water line going around here. Then the orange being the BVW through the middle, and then the edge of the pond on the other side, the pre-existing flags. So that's that area. We didn't have time to reflect it on the other plans that you have, but it is on the civil plans. So we produce these civil engineering plans, and there's not much change from what you saw before, but just on a different plan set. So we are showing proposed pool equipment pad, proposed pool house, the swimming pool, stone stepper walkways, the proposed patio and retaining wall, and then these boulder lines being the 100-foot, 50-foot, 25-foot buffer zones. And then we also have shaded back the 200 and the 100-foot from the riverfront. So that's just kind of the general layout plan. Now this on the right side of this same sheet, get into the stormwater a little bit more. So as previously depicted, we're still proposing the same stormwater controls for the patio and the pool and pool house runoff. So the stormwater system with 2 infiltration pipes in this area for the patio. Coming up this way a little bit, coming from the pool, these arrows depict the direction of runoff from the pool and the hardscape patio for the pool. The grading's on the architectural plans, landscape architectural plans. Still the same flow path to the proposed rain garden. We slid the proposed rain garden out of the buffer zone as requested, and the rain garden approximately doubled in size. One of the engineering comments was to include runoff from the pool in case it overflowed. So we doubled the size of the rain garden, and that was calculated. We also added a runoff area from the pool discharge, so that would drain to the rain garden as well. And then the same drip edge around the pool as previously submitted. So one of the engineering department comments before was they didn't necessarily agree that we should combine all the watershed area into one design point, being Spencer Brook. There are existing catch basins on Barrett's Mill Road that discharge to the brook, but they wanted to see us break down what's traveling to the road and what's what's running off to the pond and the brooks towards the rear of the property. So we basically overhauled the stormwater report and broke it down into 2 design points. In the report is discussed that we're not increasing the volume of runoff or peak rate of runoff to either design point. And ultimately, it does all end up at Spencer Brook, approximately in this location. Any questions so far?
No, doesn't appear so.
So this final sheet, there was a request to look at the flood storage mitigation. Again, instead of the method we did it before, we used CAD software to estimate the volume of flood mitigation that we're providing. So while I was out there looking at the flags, I spent a little more time and located the existing wood retaining wall that's under this deck, and I have it on a photo already. And you probably saw this on the site. So underneath the deck, there is some open storage area, but there is this existing wood retaining wall. And so there isn't much flood storage because contour 121, which is the flood elevation, is approximately at the top of this wall, and you'll see on the site plans. So the proposed retaining wall cuts off about half of this deck. So you lose some storage over there, but we're gaining it in other areas on the site. So again, there's this wall, the existing deck that's being removed. So you're gaining a little bit of storage there and then losing it here. Gaining a little bit of storage over here and gaining a little bit of storage over here. So the breakdown is provided in these tables based on a foot by foot basis. And there's a couple extra elevation intervals where we're not touching, but it's just an example of how the calculation is performed. I'm happy to go through anything if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. And CPW is looking at that now, right? So, okay, and they'll conclude part of the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I still have a question about the bridge. In the no disturb zone. Yeah, and I guess just regardless of lesser helicals or whatnot. And I understand that the structural engineer has to further analyze that. But I guess the question is, there's already a spillway there, and is there the potential just to follow that spillway as the form of the bridge if it can be supported? And I got to believe the loads are relatively light, right? It's a footbridge at the end of the day. So there's not a lot of heavy loads imposed. But I guess I'm just having trouble, going into the BVW and imposing helicals for a private walkway that wants to connect the walkway, which is a nice idea, but it doesn't seem like that's something we've done in the past.
I think there's, and just to state, I'm not a structural engineer, so I can't make the structural engineer decisions for that. But just being on site and looking at it, I think there's really 2 ways you can do it. You can either do, sono piles or screw piles on each side of the waterway, and then span that entire distance, which is about 30 to 38 feet, depending where the ends of the bridge would be. Or you can make a resting point in the middle to support the load. And I believe the structural engineer just hasn't seen that in order to really make a good judgment on that, and they'd have to look at what the soil conditions are, and maybe poke around in here. I believe they may have to do more investigation than would be allowed just to determine if this wall could support it or not. You know, in order to stamp the plans, they may not be able to get that in front of the wall.
No, I can appreciate that. You know, you always want to be careful with structure, but I guess it's a more fundamental question in terms of allowing this type of work in the 25-foot no disturb at all. Even if you were to hail coals or sonotubes or whatever, you're still placing those in the 25-foot no disturb zone. So that's, to me, that's a fundamental question. I just, you know, would like the other commissioners to weigh in on that as well, but.
I don't like it, partly for the precedent it sets. I mean, as you said, there's no public benefit to this. It's hard to justify that sort of violation of the 25-foot. So that's my opinion.
And I totally agree. I mean, it's called the no disturb zone for a reason. and you know, we have to uphold that.
Yeah, and again, and again, there's an impact there, and if it could be perhaps worked with that impact, but you know, again, it's, you know, I just can't. Again, I think you're hearing from some of the commissioners that it seems like a far stretch, and the precedent issue is a really critical issue, I think, as well. Greg, Gary, you have any perspective?
I tend to agree. I do think, however, we have allowed docks to go in on the edge of rivers and in ponds. So I don't think, I think it's, you know, I hate to have people just putting bridges across the creek walkways through the 25 and through the wetlands like that. I think the site itself has been engineered to meet the, I don't know, I wouldn't say minimum standards, but you're packing a lot of groceries in this bag on the site. And this sort of just exacerbates my feeling about that. You've got a pool going in, you got a lot of stuff going on there, and it's pretty close to the, you know, everything is within inches of the 50 foot just to keep outside, everything to the max. And now we're going to say, well, also let's have a walkway. You can get to the island, let's call it an island for the sake of discussion. You can get to it, the peninsula, from the other side. So it isn't like you can't get to your other part of your land. So it's but I do think, I mean, I don't know what the other thing, you could make an argument that we've allowed similar.
Temporary, I mean, the docks, I mean, actually, that's not entirely, so Summit Whites are in year round, but a lot of them are temporary.
Yeah.
I do agree that if you can utilize the existing structure, that's far less of an impact.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that should be really pushed, if you will, from your end, if that's a continuing desire to kind of make that link.
Well, let's be clear. Are we saying just using it as one support point would be a sufficient mitigation? I don't think so.
No, Nick, we're saying follow the concrete spillway.
Use it as the structure.
The existing structure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was envisaging when on the visit, that if you could put something on top of that, so you know it wasn't such a balancing act, but at least you're not causing further disturbance to the no disturb zone.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes to Greg's earlier point, like it's not an entirely natural system as it is now, like there clearly this was engineered. Now, some degree of natural wetlands has been reestablished around this engineered structure. And so if we could work with it, I agree that's better. But yeah, I don't know, it's still in the 25, and I think that,
It's in the wetlands.
Yeah, it's
Not in the
yeah,
25.
yeah, right,
it's
right.
crossing over the wetlands.
It is the wet.
Well, I mean, I, to your point about packing a lot of groceries in this bag, I mean, you know, I'm also a little not bothered, but you know, the deck next to the house is also 17.9 feet away, and they're removing a good portion of the wooden deck, but they're building back with a stone deck, and it just seemed like they could have improved the situation there instead of, you know, maintaining that 17.9 foot distance from the wetlands on the deck. And so, you know, now here we're going all straight across the wetlands. So, yeah, I think, you know, looking for less impact on the wetlands rather than, you know, exactly what's allowed by policy would be better.
So I think you've got a good sense of the commission in regard to the bridge, if you will. I guess I just had one other comment, was the compost area. You know, typically we like to see those fully outside the 50. And I think this one, I think the location as on the plans is kind of straddling the 50. So if you could, I would suggest if you could just somehow move that beyond the 50 in that general area, that would be more acceptable.
Yeah, we can look into relocating it outside.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Does any of the commissioners have any other further comments on the proposal?
I guess, could I just speak for a moment?
Yeah, sure. If you could just
Yeah, my name's
name
Dan
and address.
Gordon. Yeah, Dan Gordon, landscape architect. I just wanted to be clear, would you entertain a boardwalk on top of the existing structure, or you just want it removed from the scope of this proposal?
No, I think that's where we're suggesting that perhaps that the smaller boardwalk could follow the path of the concrete, you know, wall, if you will. Yeah.
Okay, so it would follow this the sluice, and then it would turn, and then I believe there is another piece that it can sit on where that board currently sits, so that it would just be on top of the existing structure and at no point touch the wetlands.
Correct. That would be, I think that's the concept we're suggesting.
Okay, and is that something that can be conditioned, or you need to see a revised plan before
Need
you
to see need to see a fully revised plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll revise that, and we'll also revise the compost area to get it out of the 50 foot.
Yeah, and again, if there's any change details on the plan, you should show that as well in regard to the bridge.
We will, thank you.
Yeah, I don't, so you're gonna go from, well, let's see, show us the plan and we'll figure it out later. And then,
Yeah.
I
So,
don't want
right,
to engineer it here.
right,
None.
and that plan should have a structural stamp on it, so whatever the bridge plan is going to be, we'll want that with a structural stamp.
And I would think, Delia, if they have to do any investigation on site in the wetlands, they should alert you to whatever steps they're going to take, or are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, exploratory borings are exempt,
Okay,
so, I mean, we want.
I'm not sure they
You're
do.
not going in with a machine, you know, you're gonna.
My
do
guess is
hand-
they probably just hand dig and
Yeah.
see what's at the bottom of all that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay, so you're good with that.
I don't quite,
I'd
I
like to
guess for a
understand
guy to
exactly what
stamp it,
they're
he has to know that
He's gonna have to get under there and,
from a practical standpoint, that thing has been there for one heck of a long time and it shows no cracks or, I mean, that,
I'm
you
sure
could drive a
it's
bulldozer
gonna
over that.
settle
I'm
where it's gonna
guaranteed.
settle, yeah.
It's done, it's settled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, the loads aren't significant,
Not at
right?
all.
Yeah, so
100 pounds for a person.
I would like to think that
Yeah.
that could be arranged somehow,
I
but
bet you they've been walking the bridge for 50 years.
yeah, you mean the spillway? Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And
Okay.
my gut feeling on that is, in walking out there, it's mostly sand in this area, which agrees with the test pit. So it's just going to how can we do the analysis without disrupting the wetland?
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that. Just again, if you think it's any more than a boring or a small shovel, just please let Delia know.
Yep.
And so given that, if we're at the end of the comments, would you like to appear before the May 18th meeting, or do you need a little more time to perhaps think about I think if I need more time for the structure, right, at the end of the day, or would you like to at least get the concept heard on the May 18th?
Andrea or Dan, if you want to.
I think we'd like to bring the plan back before you for that next hearing, if you're available.
Friday.
So it'll have to be on Friday at noon?
Yep.
All right, so are you good with that?
Revised plans by Friday at noon.
Yes.
I think we should try.
Okay, that's fine.
No harm.
No, we'll just go to the next meeting if you can't meet that. That's fine. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our second continuance of the evening. Notice of intent, 80 Alford Circle, DEP file number 137-1593. And Scott, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good evening, Chairman Nardi, Doctors Grimwood, Kleinman, Commissioners Pappas, Higgins, Director K, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott H. Gillis. I have been taking care of the land at 80 Alfred Circle for 33 years. Well, maybe a little more, to be a little more precise, the majority of the property at 80 Alfred Circle is wetlands. So Mother Nature has been taking care of the property for millennia, and I've been trying to cooperate with Mother Nature for the past 33 years. I'd like to start out first with a couple of quick thank yous. At the last meeting, it was pointed out that there was a 3-decade-old or past due certificate of compliance on the land at 80 Alfred Circle. So my thanks to Karen Bachhoven for identifying that, and to the commission for providing the certificate of compliance. I'm pleased to show you that it has been filed, stamped, and a stamped copy has been delivered to the Natural Resources Commission. So thank you very much for that, ladies and gentlemen. I'd also like to thank the commission for pointing out a number of proposed improvements in the site plan. And I'm happy to talk about those tonight, and also indicating the commission's desire for applicant funded engineering associated with last meeting's mitigation plan, which has led to a totally new mitigation plan for this meeting. So I'm happy to talk about all those things, and would be happy to follow any direction you would like to provide, Chairman Nardi.
Yes, Scott, I think we got a pretty good sense of the project. You know, we had a good discussion last time, and I think we got a lot of things ironed out just generally. So I think if you just want to focus on just the mitigation area, if you will, and just the changes to that, I think that would be sufficient for this evening.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the changes are the removal of any bioretention or rain garden areas, and substituting that instead with the removal of lawn area to be planted with native plants. On the site plan, you can see the stippled area, kind of an irregularly shaped area, which more or less covers the general area where lawn exists and could be removed and planted. Also on the site plan, and oh, by the way, I'm going to ask to go to another view of this that is much more detailed. But also on the site plan, there's a planting legend. You can see it in the bottom left corner now, the title. And if you could move the image so you can see the planting legend, that would be great. So the planting legend, as you can see, proposes all native plants, which are most likely to do well in the area, which is varied in moisture, generally sandy, and quite shady. There's a lot of overhead trees, a lot of canopy cover. So the proposed plants have been selected in hopes that they do well in that site. There are TBD native shrubs, ground covers, and ferns identified, as well as TBD perennials in the event that these particular genus and species are not available at the desired time of planting, or for some reason don't do well in the first year, and there might be something that performs better in the space. The minimum size is indicated and the planting distance is indicated. So I'll stop there just to see if there are any comments on the plant selection.
I think we're probably good with that, Scott. Thank you.
Okay, great. And now if we may, could we move to the image that shows more detail there, hand sketches that I, who will be doing the work, have prepared. By the way, this particular sketch is 1 inch equals 10 feet. And you can see the lot line on the top left corner. And then the existing large trees, oaks and pines and birch are marked. And also the reference point for the stormwater drain, the 12-inch RCP, is also indicated. So this area is currently lawn, and the plan would be to eliminate the lawn ideally without any chemicals and without any mechanical manipulation. The method that would be employed would be a method that you may know of called sheet mulching, where paper bags, for example, or cardboard is placed over the lawn. It's covered with mulch, and that suppresses the growth of the grass going forward by depriving it of any light. And then there is a deer path indicated all along the wetlands buffer, in the buffer zone, along the side of the house, from one side of my property to the other. A group of deer frequently pass through, and they enjoy the hosta as they pass through at other plants. The desire is to, while removing the grass, to leave an opening so the animals can continue to enjoy their daily or tri-weekly voyage through the property. I've tried to indicate where, on a preliminary basis, I would plan to put perennials and ground cover and shrubs. And of course, that will all depend on what the light looks like when the leaves come out and things like that. But more or less, this is, I think, a plan that is likely to work very nicely. The one last thing is there's a Pachysandra removal area that is shown on the site plan, but also shown here. And that's, the intent would be to remove that Pachysandra, which is not in a grass area, but is too close to the wetlands, and not intended to be there.
Okay. Well, thank you, Scott. Again, probably just one question that we probably all have is that the deer paths, are they part of the mitigation square footage?
Okay, so So thank you, Chairman Nardi. If you look at the site plan itself, and you don't have to go there,
Yeah,
but the calculation by the surveyor is that the outside perimeter of this area is about 1,300 square feet. The new, or the impervious surface of the project is 573 square feet. There is another chart. It has a 1 inch to 10 grid over it. I don't know if we can get that up on the screen.
there you go.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. So as you can see, if you each of the squares is roughly 100 square feet, and the Pachysandra removal is roughly 60 square feet. Even excluding the deer path, there is, at least 600 square feet of changed area from lawn to.
So what will the surface be of those deer paths?
I was just going to leave it mulched and then let nature do what it wants to do. It was not going to be grass. It was going to be, the grass was going to be eliminated.
So I might suggest that, maybe just to replant that whole thing with herbaceous. I mean, the deer will find their way through.
Yeah, they'll pick
There's
no
no
stop sign, the deer will walk wherever they want. Okay.
Yeah, is it a requirement to eliminate more than the 573 square feet?
No.
And plant more than the
I think
500?
if that's the right calculation, that's
I
what you
think
have
you
to
were at
eliminate.
573.
Yeah,
You needed to create, I think, whatever that number was at the new structure, that's what you need to provide for the mitigation.
Okay, yeah, my
The
understanding.
plan shows the 1,200. That's what I think we're all trying to understand is the site plan shows 1,200 square feet in area. And I think that's what you're showing here, but you're not including the deer paths in that calculation. Is that right?
Well, I'm not counting the deer path as
mitigation.
Right.
I'm not giving the applicant any credit for the deer path as mitigation.
Yeah,
Okay. So I
understood.
think it's probably better to just reduce the size of the mitigation area to 600 square feet, whatever it is, plus or minus, and just take the deer paths off. The deer will find their way.
So I think what you're suggesting is maybe from the upland side, from the top of this page, pull it down and leave grass and not have a deer path, just let the, maybe try to plant herbaceous plants like maybe ground cover or something that wouldn't get in their way.
Well, I think the shrubs are really what are going to be more beneficial from a mitigation standpoint. You can put some understory plantings in, but I think you want, this is mitigation for new structures. I think you want to be putting in trees and shrubs as well as understory.
The deer will find their way through meadows, with much higher vegetation. There's no need to provide a path for them.
Okay, I can reduce the area and, in other words, take less grass out and fully plant it rather than leaving a little pathway. That is not difficult to do at all. Happy to do that.
That's fine.
My intent is to exceed the 573 by a wide margin, and to plant only native plants that will do well in the area, and to plant them in a way that hopefully they fill in, they thrive and fill in, and we have nice groupings of native plants.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott. So I think with the revision though, I think with the revision though, Delia will have to hold over, right? Scott, I think the only thing that you'll have to do is just simply revise the square footage on your engineered plan to reflect what your planting area will be. And then you can just reflect the number of plants going into a smaller area.
Certainly I can do that. Not to be argumentative, but is Massachusetts law or the Concord bylaws, do they require this change, or is this simply a preference of the commission?
No, it's really your preference, right? You only have to meet 573 square feet. You
Yes, sir.
provided, as you said, an excessive amount of mitigation, which is always appreciated. But if you'd like to, per the discussion, if you'd like to lessen that amount, then all we really require is that you revise your plan to sync up with any revisions you'd like to do in lessening that amount of mitigation. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
all.
my preference, if I would be allowed, if there's no regulatory reason why the applicant wouldn't be allowed to provide the plenty of mitigation in square footage, but retain this shape and retain an unplanted area, if you will, for a deer path, that would be the applicant's preference if it is allowed by Massachusetts law and the Concord bylaws.
So Scott, what you're saying is you'd like to just leave it the way it is, proceed with the plans you have in front of us tonight with a larger mitigation area and the plantings, et cetera, and proceed that way.
Yeah, just as presented tonight with and plant on either side of the deer path, so to speak, but not count the deer path as mitigation square footage. If that's acceptable to the commission, that would please the applicant, but the applicant also wishes to do what is ever required by Massachusetts state law and what is ever required by the bylaws of the town of Concord, Massachusetts.
Okay, appreciate that. I think we're good with the square footage. It's just a question of the deer path. How do people feel about that in terms of planting something there to kind of hold the soil, if you will?
Well,
forgive the interruption. The word deer path, if we took out the word deer, I was thinking it's nice for the deer, but I also wouldn't mind being able to walk among the plants myself.
When people are developing mitigation areas, it is where you're taking out the lawn and you're revegetating that. So it's not including a mulched area within, through the mitigation area. So I think that's really kind of the sticking point, is just taking those off and making that, sort of a more robust and intact mitigation area.
Well, we also like to see the plantings be as close to the wetland as possible, and you've put a demarcating line in between that. You separated your mitigation, and we prefer not to see that because it's much more effective to have it be as one homogeneous area. So, I mean, statutorily, you probably could do what he's doing.
Is it, if I may ask, is the path that you're proposing currently grass?
It is, Dr. Grimwood, yes.
So I just wonder if you could just leave it as grass rather than mulch and just plant either side of it. Would that work for everyone?
Yes, we'd be happy to do that.
Well, we're trying to get.
Would that be? I know it still doesn't make it one area, but would it be better just without the mulch piece, Ed and Greg?
Wetlands.
It's
On the lower.
I think
How far is
it's
that
within
from
the
the
25.
Within the 25.
To Greg's point, my question would be is, do we have 573 square feet, the required mitigation on the bottom half of that,
1, 2, 3, 4.
separation?
It's close. I'm not sure though.
It's close, yeah.
Because if you had, the required amount of mitigation that's intact with the
Yeah.
wetland, then you're
Then you're
doing
done.
what you need to do.
Yes, now remember, the site plan does not show the detail, the sketch does.
Correct. I'm just putting this up because this has the 25-foot no disturb zone. So
Yeah.
Yes,
sort of the deer path seems to sort of go through this area, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean,
there's another one that comes out there.
my mind, the guy's providing almost twice as much mitigation.
Right.
And, if about half of it is bordering the wetlands,
Yeah, you're pretty
I
much
feel like
there.
we should probably let him do what he wants to do.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just,
I mean,
just so you
that
under-
logic.
But just so you understand, Mr. Gillis, from the perspective of the wetlands, having that separation, I know you're calling it a path and we don't have to call it a deer path, we don't have to call it a person path. It's a space that's disconnecting the wetland from some other beneficial plantings. If they were connected, that would be more beneficial, but you're definitely providing almost twice the mitigation that you need to, so it's okay.
Mitigate ponds.
All right.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Kleiman. And I would also mention that to the degree I can easily shift that path a little bit upland to create more of the planting closer to the wetlands, I'm happy to do that.
Perfect.
That would be great.
That would be great. And
Yeah.
also, to the extent that your scale is accurate and it's really that path is 10 feet wide, because it looks like it's about an inch wide on the page. Maybe, yeah, deer probably don't need a 10-foot wide path. So
Right, so if you can make that just a 4-foot wide path.
Yeah, if we could go back to that drawing, please, that sketch with the scale, block scale.
Yeah. I would think we're okay with the plan.
Okay.
I think we're pretty good, Scott. Again, if
Mhm.
in the field, if you reduce that path and pull it up from the bottom, that would, I think the commission would be fine with that.
Okay, great. If you look at the sketch right between the words deer and path,
yeah,
the line that is the top and bottom of each of the boxes containing deer and path is 10 feet. So the deer path is drawn at about 5 feet.
5 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
And I can easily make it, smaller, and would be more than happy to do
No,
that.
that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. I think
That's
it's
great. Helpful for
I
clarifying.
guess it's close
I think
enough.
we have a motion.
Yeah, so
We do.
I move that we close and issue order of conditions for DEP file number 137-1593, 80 Alfred Circle, with findings A, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 57.
Second.
Thank you, Greg. And the vote, Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Greg, Gary,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you, Scott. Good luck with
Thank
the
you.
project.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your help and guidance, and a special thank you to Delia, Colleen, and Karen. As you know, I've flown solo on this trip without the help of landscape architects and engineers and things like that, and it wouldn't have been possible without the kind support and guidance of everybody. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Great, thanks.
Good evening.
Bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye. Thanks.
All right. Next up on the agenda is our first new application. It's for the request for determination of applicability, 127 Tarbell Spring Road, RDA file number 22-7. And good evening, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Parkhurst. I'm the homeowner at 127 Tarbell Spring Road. And so I just wanted to start by saying that I think everything that we're trying to do, our hope is to be a benefit to the resource area and also create a more sustainable yard for us and for our kids. So the first item is actually permitted through an RDA last year, which is manually pulling invasives over our whole yard. I guess I should add that there's a stream along one side of our yard there. So last year through an RDA, we got permission to pull invasives everywhere, including along the bank of the stream, and replant with natives. And so some of what's in here is just kind of more detail on that. We already pulled a lot of stuff last year. We're continuing to pull regrowth and garlic mustard. And these are just some of the plants that we want to continue putting in. The blue ones there, I actually already planted myself last year. And the green one, the two different shades of green there are proposed to go in the future. This would all be planted manually by me with digging, no machinery or and no changing of the soil, just using the soil that's there. Then I would say kind of the key item here is that we want to put in a retaining wall and native plant bed in the front yard. And so our front yard slopes down from the street towards our house. And right now it's mostly lawn and the grass, except that the grass really doesn't grow there. So we want less lawn anyway, but there's a lot of erosion and runoff that happens across the lawn, and we can see that dirt is kind of collecting that's coming off of the front lawn and heading down towards the wetlands. So the idea with that retaining wall is both to reduce the amount of lawn there by about 500 square feet and also decrease the surface runoff and erosion with a dry stacked field stone wall. So that's the plan there. And then I think in the back, there's an existing retaining wall in the back that's just kind of crumbling a little bit. I assume that it's been there as long as the house has been there, and we just want to do some restoration and repair work on that wall, just to make sure that it's mostly that it's safe. And then the remaining two items, there is a proposed rain garden next to the driveway. There's actually a plant bed there already, and it had a huge buckthorn in it that we pulled as part of our invasives pulling. And so now it's kind of empty, and it just seemed like a good place for a rain garden because it could catch runoff that's coming across the driveway. And then in the bottom corner there, we were proposing like a natural play area for our kids. So I think actually I mentioned in here that if there were to be a play structure, it would be outside of 25-foot zone, but we actually don't have any plans at this point to put a play structure in. The idea is more like a wood chip path, or maybe like some logs to jump on and that kind of thing. So I think that covers everything. Yeah, so I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, so you did note that it does have the play area in the 25, as you just noted, right? There wouldn't be any kind of structure or play within the 25 necessarily.
Right. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think on the rain garden, I think you did supply a kind of a generic detail as part of the application.
Yeah, that's from it's generic, but it is from the landscape designer that we work with. She put that together, so not for this project, but so I think it's pretty accurate to what we would do. But we don't have more specific plans at this time for that goes beyond this.
Yeah, I think again, I think we'd probably be looking for a more slightly developed kind of rain garden plan, kind of general size. We see the location on the plan, but just kind of general sizing, kind of sloping, and then kind of confirming if this is what you're going to do in terms of the prep to that area, and then the plantings within the rain garden. So I think we need a little bit more detail on that, and again, how it's going to get built, if you will.
Would it be possible to basically leave this out for now?
Of course, that's whatever the applicant wants to do, but it would probably be, but again, it would have to be reflected on the plan, right? We wouldn't want it left on the plan that we approve.
Okay.
And then you don't do it, right? Because then you'll get compliance, so you may want to just take it off if you want to just wait on that, if you will.
Okay.
Well, would we, if she got the plan back to us with that off by Friday, would we be able to vote on that next meeting?
I would.
Vote on it tonight.
Well, I mean, we could go. I mean, we could move this.
Yeah,
this ball down the field.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're doing all this work. I don't want to hold them up on the technicality of.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't many comments in regard to this.
No,
other than really.
I mean, your point is well taken, but
just the rain garden. That's all.
I think, Rebecca, if you could take that, if you could get that plan back taken off and let we could just vote
No.
the plan as is, and
Okay.
I don't know, can we do that?
So I'm sorry.
You weren't paying attention.
She was answering
Point
my
that out to
question.
everybody. Thank you.
Also, we got the 25-foot waiver as well.
We did it. No, we didn't get the update to, how to prepare the area.
Okay. But again, she could get that in by Friday, right? The 25-foot updated waiver and just removing that. I'm not sure we could vote on it tonight though, because we have
No.
nothing
We don't have
prepared.
anything
We
prepared.
don't have anything, yeah.
Okay.
So Rebecca, if you want to just, if you'd like to hold on the rain garden, that's fine. If you can get the revised 25-foot waiver in and the revised plan, removing the rain garden in by Friday, we could vote on it next
We don't
hearing.
even have to
And,
come.
and while
Okay.
you're removing the rain garden, you can remove the snow fence.
Yes.
Right, the fence is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
And all you need for me to say for the waiver is basically that I'm gonna just manually plant myself and not, there won't be any machinery, or
Yeah.
is that what you need? The kind of information that you need?
that should do it.
Okay, well, I guess I do have one follow-up question on that since, yeah, I mean, I guess this is the issue since it's on the plan, because I do already have permission to plant there from last year. I already have the waiver from last year, but you need me to update it for this one too?
Are you adding any planting back there, different from
Yeah,
your
there's
last
some more
approval
plants.
plan?
I just more specific. I was kind of vague about what I was going to plant last year. So this has a more specific list.
So
It
you
would
might,
be helpful just to have that.
yeah, you might as well just update the waiver then. It's not
Okay.
a big much, I don't think so.
Okay, so the updated waiver and remove the rain garden by Friday
And the snow fence.
and the snow fence, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, okay,
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
thank you. Bye.
Good evening.
Fine.
All right, next application, notice of intent, 48 Elm Street, DEP file number 137. Do we have a number on it, Delia, or still outstanding?
Just got it this afternoon.
Oh, great. Do you have it, Karen?
1602.
1602. Thank you. All right. Who will be presenting this evening?
Hi, this is Paul Stanislazic. Good evening. We'd like to have David Burke present for us,
Sure.
as we have no idea what we'd be saying.
Well, don't sell yourself short.
There you go.
All right. My name is Dave Burke. It's nice to see the board. Thanks for having us this evening. I'm a wetland specialist and wildlife biologist. I'm working with the Stanislazics on the proposed plan at 48 Elm Street. I guess I could give you an outline of the site. The house was built in 1880 or so. It's close to downtown. It's right near the junction there. And it's on the riverside. It abuts the Sudbury River. The entire lot size is 16,338 square feet. So that's roughly a third of an acre, a little more. The existing home, which the Stanislazics have lived in since June of last year, 2021, itself is just under 1,000 square feet. There are two small outbuildings associated with the property as well. One is at the end of the driveway, which says accessory structure. That's approximately 200 square feet. And then there's a portable shed. It's up on blocks at the moment. And that is 6 foot by 9 foot, I believe, or 8.2. The resource areas on the property are largely riverfront area. As stated, the Sudbury River is immediately to the north of the property. The rear yard slopes down to the river. And as you can see, I flagged that, I don't know, about a year, no, it was in October of 21, and determined that the mean annual high water line and BVW are consistent. So we go with the mean annual high water line. And that, as shown on the plan, by the way, where the mean annual high water line is serving as the bank. Okay, and there's something of an area of sand in between that is almost devoid of growth due to the ice movement and ebb and flow of the river as it will. As you can see, from the river up to the house, there's a sloped rear yard area, which is mostly lawn. There's this pretty good depiction, in fact, of the lawn is green. There's an age-old stone staircase that goes down the eastern side, about halfway down the hill. Yep. And no plans down there, aside from possible mitigation. We'll get to that. And so what this site is entirely blanketed by the riverfront zone. So we see the 100, again, consistent with the BVW line, which is right there, exactly. Is running through a portion of the rear patio, which is existing, and the red hatched area, the slashed area, is the proposed addition structure. What else can I tell you? The driveway was, it appears fairly thoughtfully created in that someone removed a lot of pavement there all the way down to the accessory structure and allowed for more pervious surface area. That was done before the Stanislawski's owned the home, but I thought it was a nice idea, kind of cool. The proposal at hand is it's 16.5 feet long and 14 feet wide. So it gives us a total of the net total is going to be somewhere around 230 feet, 230 square feet. The ultimate degraded area as a result of the proposal, which might as well just get to that, is 229 square feet, as shown on the chart provided by me and John Hamill, land surveyor. So with that being said, the proposal is certainly within 310 CMR 1053 8, or not 8, redevelopment project. The Stanislawski's did go in and meet briefly with Delia some months ago, I think. Thank you, Delia, and talked about that. So that question should be answered. It's a stick frame structure. The house is somewhat with an antique style, and the Stanislawski's are looking to mimic that with this small addition. They're proposing a hip roof with cedar shake shingles and no gutters. And part of the reason for the hip roof was to contain all, in the best way to contain and control any additional runoff from that small surface area. And with that said, we plan to install drip edge drainage. The detail was included with the filing along 3 sides. You can see it, a little green dash line around the structure, and that is consistent with the rest of the drainage on the house. There are no gutters on the house. I don't believe there are, at least in the rear. I didn't see any. We have shown a stockpiling area in pink, the central western part of the site next to the accessory structure. That would be there certainly briefly, probably a few days, dig the foundation, it's a 4-foot frost wall going in, and then backfill with that. The first thing you do, obviously, is to get your erosion control barrier down, which would be straw wattle staked with silk fencing if required. We did show that as a detail. So with that said, I think that's a fair description of things there. Open to questions, if you have any.
Thank you. I think in the area, I think staff pointed out where you showed the 3 trees to the, at least to our right-hand side, I guess that, to the
Yep.
east.
Yep.
Apparently there are more trees back there and more landscaping, and I think that should be shown on the plans so that if you're keeping some of or keeping those trees, we know what trees have to be protected adjacent to the construction zone. And again, you'd have to show a tree protection plan as well.
Okay. To address the tree concern, those 3 are shown for removal, and there are, I believe there are only 4 trees along that eastern property line. I don't know why the surveyors didn't pick up the 4th one, if there is one. I have a photo of them right here. And that, you know, the issue with the trees to be removed is that particularly the southernmost one, which is marked as 18-inch evergreen, that's a hemlock, and it's practically scratching the house. It has limbs that are overhanging at present. I think the Stanislawski's would be okay with limbing that or trimming it back, if not removing it, and that would be between, you know, I can take that up with them again as needed. The middle tree is a white pine tree, and that, I think, is also debatable as to whether you want it to come out or not. It's, you know, it's a white pine, there's lots of them, and it would certainly, if anything comes out, we're certainly prepared to offer mitigation in kind or better, whatever you like. And the most northerly one is a deciduous tree. It's not an evergreen as marked. It's either ash or a hickory. And that, as Kelly Stanislawski had Marquee Tree come down and look at those specimens, and he identified the northern one as being in decline, dying, and a subject for removal. So that's the trees there. It's not like we overlooked much more, and I wasn't in on the survey, but not like anyone overlooked much more than one, maybe. I can't picture what that would be, but.
I don't think there's a lot, David. There's a U sort of right.
Yeah.
Right in the
Yep.
there's some rhododendrons.
Yeah, I was going to get to those, Delia. There is a yew. It's gone from a shrub into whatever they go to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's. I don't know why survey didn't get it. Is it a tree? Is it a shrub? They typically don't, you know, pinpoint locate shrubs. They'll put an arrow around the bed of them or landscaping or whatever. So that yew should, at the very least, I don't know if it would survive the construction, frankly, because the roots are going to be close unless it was cut way back, and then you have a tiny yew that's back to a shrub again. And as far as the landscaping at the end of the, I think, that's at the end of the little porch that's coming out here. There's 2 rhododendrons there. They look like more than that, but it's actually 2 plants. And then it's all Pachysandra. So that's what's, and then everything else where it says proposed addition is lawn. So I certainly appreciate the detail that you're looking for, but I'm hoping that, you know, we can adjust on the fly and you know, move on accordingly and see what's the best way to do that. Colleen had a couple other concerns Excuse me while I dig up a flashlight here. Which were the detail of protection for a tree protection detail. And then the board wants, or the office board, whoever needs a one-to-one tree and shrub replacement somewhere. And I had briefly talked with the Stanislawski's about the mitigation this evening. We didn't get Colleen's concerns until noontime, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. And I think there's, the best place to do mitigation would be down along the river or somewhere near the river while preserving the view. There's certainly room along the property line to add to the, both tree and shrub.
I think we concur with that it's best down towards the river.
Yeah, to the north at the bottom of the slope.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
again, it's not to interrupt. It's a small yard as it is, and they've got a dog and kids, and they want to preserve, what to the extent possible, the utility aspect of the backyard. But I know what you guys expect and what most boards expect, and you reiterated that 2 filings ago when you said that you like plantings near the resource area, which makes sense.
All right. Does the commission have any other comments in regard to the plan in general or any specifics? All right. So I guess what the next step would be, you got to locate the mitigation, locate the tree replacement. I think we're more comfortable on a one-to-one replacement, if you will, versus.
I think at this point, and our policies are continuing to evolve, but I think that, if this is ready to go, I think, one-to-one makes sense for now. But
So I think we just need a plan showing the proposed location of if deciding on what trees you want to take down. I know you just said that there may be some further discussion on those trees, limbing one maybe, understand the one that's failing, etc. Showing those on a plan, showing the mitigation area on the plan. So we can kind of just get the full scope. I think we should be in pretty good shape.
Okay, and plus detail for the protection, the tree protection.
Yeah, depending on what's out there and how what's staying and what you're protecting.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave, just to be clear as well, that you should plan to mitigate for any tree removals should be mitigated one-to-one. And then the amount of new structure, so the 229 square feet, that should also be mitigated with, I think, there's not really any invasives. Congratulations on the site. Maybe a little tiny bit of multiflora, but so with some additional tree plantings, close to the resource area, tree shrub plantings.
So to total, oh, sorry about that.
I was just going to say, and to the extent you want to minimize the mitigation, you sort of were indicating maybe those 3 trees don't need to come out. I mean,
or 1 or 2 versus 3.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
So that's to be determined there, and I understand that Delia, there is some invasives that are going to come out, which is the Pachysandra. Right?
Great, as part of the construction, right?
Yeah, and that will be carefully removed. And that, as you know, once that gets down near the river on a shady slope, it goes. So we'll be careful about that, but it is going to be removed. And as far as the trees, Delia, refresh my mind, because different boards have different standards. A tree is how big at DBH for replacement?
Oh, for replacement, we don't currently have a caliper replacement size.
Okay.
But with that being said, I don't think that putting in a 4-inch width is really sort of.
Yeah, if you could provide something that looks like a tree, that would be great.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Okay, well, that was great. Thank you for your time. And we're going to try to amp this up and get it to you by Friday.
Okay, fair enough. So perhaps we'll see you May 18th.
That would be ideal. Yeah, we'd rather not kick it in June. Thank you very much for your
Very good.
interest. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
You too. Go Bruins.
Got that one in. All right, next application, notice of intent, 736 Strawberry Hill Road, DEP file number 137-1600. And is Kyle here this evening?
Yes, I'm here. Kyle Cormier with Oxbow Associates, representing the applicant, who's also here, Scott and Ellen, and Dominic Kemet from our office is also here. He prepped the majority of the application. So the proposed project is a septic replacement, about 550 square feet of temporary impact with the tank and the leach field, as well as the D-box. There's a crabapple and magnolia adjacent to the work area that are going to be protected by a snow fence with some stakes, just to prevent any workers from getting close and potentially damaging the trunks. There's one 9-inch silver maple proposed to be removed to the south of the proposed work that is within the 50-foot buffer zone. And then we are planning on replacing that silver maple with 4 to 6 native trees, caliber and species, dependent on nursery availability, and also we'll get approval from staff before planting. And that's just to give some leeway for the current the applicant and the owner to pick and choose what species they want. They have some idea of what they want, but if it's a smaller caliber tree at its maturity, the 4 to 6 will cover that. And those trees are planned to be planted in that green hashed area just south along the slope. And then also erosion control is the gold hash line out to the north of that hashed area. Now, since this updated plan, I've had a discussion with the applicant. So they would like to do some invasive management, hand pulling only. Currently, it's only within the green hashed area, but they did point out to me that to the southeast of the plan, along the stone wall, near the wetland line, OA-A4, there is some bittersweet in that area that they would like to pull out, hand pulling only. And again, the invasive management part of this is more of an extra, and they don't want to be required to do it, but they want to be able to do it as needed. And they understand that the native trees are kind of the requirement for the 9-inch silver maple that's being removed. And we've also proposed phenomarkers, and in that discussion today, they did point out that there's like a cloud-like texture line just south of there, and that's the existing yard. It's kind of along the wetland line. They prefer that those phenomarkers would be along that line to preserve the existing yard, instead of converting that to be naturalized. I know it's exempt from the bylaw for mowing existing yard up to the resource area. So we would prefer to keep that as lawn, and either move the phenomarkers along that line, or maybe some condition that says that's allowable. And with that, if there's any questions?
Good, thank you, Kyle.
Yep.
So just let me understand that, so the pheno markers that are on the plan today that we're looking at,
Mhm.
you'd like to revise those locations?
Yeah, if it was acceptable to the commission, they would like to preserve the existing yard as much as possible. It was recommended, in discussion with staff that install pheno markers, and I didn't realize that the existing yard was actually along the that cloud textured line. So we prefer it to be at that location.
Okay. So that's, yeah, well, I guess it is what it is today, right? It's existing grass lawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say for septic replacement, probably not required,
Right.
but if there were some, some additional structure or something, then maybe there's more discussion around that.
Right, but there's nothing here. It's just a septic replacement. Yeah, okay. So I guess at a minimum, you'd have to revise the plan to reflect the location of those pheno markers.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And that's simply done.
So is that just taking them off the plan?
I would think so, right? It doesn't seem to make any sense that if you put them at the lawn's edge in the 25-foot no disturb zone, it's really doing anything beyond that other than separation of lawn to wetland. So.
Okay.
We'd certainly keep it from expanding.
Yeah, although it probably wouldn't grow into the tree cover anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I had any real further comments on the application. Anybody else? Sarah, Nick? No. Okay. And dealing with that by way of plan revision, I know we have an order of conditions tonight.
We do, so that plan could be delivered to us by Friday, that you can.
We could do the order of
close.
condition. We can close and issue tonight, subject to receiving the plans by Friday at noontime with just that revision, removing the pheno markers.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right.
Ready for a motion?
Yeah.
So I move that we close and issue order of conditions for 736 Strawberry Hill Road, DEP file number 137, 1600, with findings A and standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 55, and subject to receiving a revised plan by Friday at noon, removing the pheno markers.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Can I also just
Yes.
point out that the snow fencing around the trees is, we would want to see, and we'll just include this as a condition, that typically what we want to see now is a minimum of welded wire, wood wire.
You're talking about
stakes for the tree protection.
Our typical tree protection detail.
Right.
So Kyle, if you could add that to the protected trees, our typical detail, again, you can contact staff if you're fuzzy on that or not, but
Yeah, will do.
that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we're ready for
You second.
your second.
I second
Ready for the
it.
vote. All right, Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
thank you. Let's see ya. Gary,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and am I an aye as well. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right. So our last new application of the evening is 5A for notice of intent, 5A Sunnyside Lane and an unnamed private way, DEP file number 137. And Karen, any number on this or?
Yep, 1601, just came in late.
There we go. 1601.
We're in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Molly, you're up.
yes, you
All
gotta be
right.
a stand.
No, sit down.
Great.
Yeah, happy to talk.
Okay,
You're welcome to drive.
oh, great, thank you. For the record.
Hey, Mark, if you want to come up.
Molly
Please.
Wendorf with Stamsky McNary. I am here with the applicant, Mark White with AWMW. This entire project is a definitive subdivision and an ORAD was issued about a year ago.
for the wetland, which is to the north and west. And specifically what we have filed for today is just the stormwater management system. So what you see there, I'm driving, right. So this is an infiltration basin here. We have the 100-foot buffer zone that runs pretty much directly right through it. And we also have some work over here on the unnamed way. To install a water main. So the work specifically over here is within floodplain. It is outside the buffer zone, but it will be temporary disturbance to the floodplain to run that water main. We did go before the Public Works Commission to get the water main approved. That has all been said and done. And I know Delia was a part of that process as well, discussion with Jeff, with the Public Works Director. So that pretty much says it all. Delia was kind enough to send an email this morning with some preliminary comments. One of which, and might be an obvious one, is to minimize the stuff plan.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, we will be submitting a revised plan showing just the work that is under the notice of intent scope.
Great.
So hopefully that will be more clear. Another comment was to provide a chart with the trees that will be removed. So we will be providing that as well. We will try and save, I think there's a few trees in this area that can be saved. We'll look at saving them if possible. But we will have the trees that need to be removed marked out, a chart with the species and sizes on the plan, and then also noting whether they are within the zoning setback. So because it's a part of definitive subdivision, there are lots here, and obviously the tree preservation bylaw, trees within the setback. So
right,
that will be noted.
So why is there not a lot line shown between 5A2 and 5A3? There is between 5A2 and 1.
There, so this is the lot line.
There it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah, it's going right through the.
Oh, it's right.
It is
okay.
right directly
Yeah.
through. So there is a drainage easement that will be provided on the plan. So
Okay.
Yeah.
and then the other remaining comment. A tree protection detail, obviously for the trees that will be protected. And then I know that Mark had responded to Delia on this, but Delia had a comment. We have a note up here. So there's existing trails currently accessed from the unnamed way. They're shown here in the dashed lines. Originally, we had noted to clear any vegetation that would be needed between the end of the turnaround here, just to be able to keep accessing those trails here. But I do believe that Mark and Delia are on the same page where no vegetation needs to be cleared. They're pretty clear paths.
They are what they are.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just remove that note from the plan to minimize any confusion there.
You finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark White for the record, Mark White from AWMW. I'd also sent out an email to Delia today saying that once we get the trees located and the retention basins laid out prior to any tree removal, I'd meet with Delia and anyone else that wanted to meet to go over why I think the trees need to be removed or if any of those can be saved. I did walk the site again and there is a small pile of brush that is, I can't use that thing, that is somewhere in this vicinity that will need to be removed, but it's dead brush.
Yeah. Great.
But, and I'm sure that within the homeowners association, there is going to be some language about maintaining the trails. And I would assume that any language you put in there would be by hand only.
Yes.
Yeah.
No equipment.
So remind me of the ownership. The town owns the two outermost parcels and you own the middle one, is that?
Yeah, so this is owned by the town and then I believe, yeah, these ones. And then this one is owned by Mark.
Which we're going to D249 pond, which is the right there.
So what about the access for that trail then? Does that then become private access? Or
No,
where
there's going to be a trail easement.
Okay,
The
great.
the homeowners are well aware of it. It'll be in the deed.
So that'll be deeded over, but stay in its natural state, if you will, that lot?
Yeah.
Okay, just,
So it's,
yeah,
it's not, it's not buildable.
yeah, yeah, I couldn't tell what, oh, yeah, yeah.
So you got the
It's, yeah, yeah,
floodplain
now I
and
see it,
everything.
yeah, yeah, now I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Whatever it is, some of
Be
the
a shed.
residents use it. It's
Yeah.
kayak. It's great access to the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Okay. I think you captured all the highlights, at least from the commentary I read.
I'm just curious, why is this not coming as the subdivision plan to NRC? Why is it just being proposed as the drainage?
Good question. As I look at it, because as I mentioned earlier, I just don't have the definitive house designs yet.
Okay.
So once, I don't want to come in front of you and say,
Yeah.
this is what I'm thinking of doing,
Yeah.
and then have to come back
back.
and say, well, I thought, I'm thinking different now. So we will put that onto a fast track and meet with our architect to come up with some sort of design
Right.
that I'm comfortable with. But
And will you do one filing for those three, or are you gonna do three separate?
I probably do 3 separate filings, but I'd like to do it at the same time.
That would be
Yeah.
good. I think
Yeah,
that.
because then you have one that
is-
applies to each house,
Right.
and owner, et cetera.
Because it gets complicated
I
when,
know.
okay.
Yeah.
That's, so there's your answer. That's why I'm not coming in with the 3 houses.
There you go.
Thank you.
But so can I just clarify in my mind? So right now, what we're considering is none of the houses, right? Just the
Correct.
drainage for the subdivision.
Just this, the infiltration basin here.
Yep.
And so the changes needed for that infiltration basin, that's the only thing that we're looking at in terms of, because you were talking about, like tree removals for setbacks and things like that.
So there will be tree removal
Yeah.
in order to, grade out the infiltration basin. So to make the plan less complicated, I will shut off the rest of the trees and just show the trees that are within the area of the infiltration basin. Note which ones will need to be removed.
Yeah.
It's
Protection, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's
And maybe it's
specific to
just
that.
my confusion, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, just in that center strip, I mean, there are trees that are in both the setback for one of the houses to be developed, but also within the area that's being disturbed for the infiltration basin. So when you come back, those trees, I mean, they're sort of
A good
Two different
question.
components of the
Related to
tree.
both.
Yeah.
filings, right?
I do think the plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is to mitigate the tree removal with the individual lots.
Okay.
Right.
So with those individual lot filings, each individual NOI, we will note the mitigation for the tree
Oh,
removal.
wait a minute, so that's
But
that's
you have
tricky
to-
because you're.
You have to do the detention basin
I
now, I
think-
think.
So
Yeah.
Right.
anytime you're cutting a tree within the building setback, we would need to get approval through the tree preservation
Correct.
bylaw.
Yeah.
So not if it's within wetlands jurisdiction though,
Correct.
right? So for those trees that are
They're
within
in
the
the
100-foot buffer zone being removed for the infiltration basin, I think we would want to see those mitigated. A plan for that mitigation under this filing.
Okay, I'm just trying to get my head around.
So you want to see a plan for the mitigation, or this is how many we would mitigate?
Yeah, I mean, just a plan for it. We don't need to see them mitigated yet. That can happen at the same
Right.
time that the houses, all that can happen at the same
So you'd
time.
want to see the location that they're going to be planted.
Yes, location, yeah.
Because some of those, I mean, there's some maples out there, there's some dead trees that you call a swag.
Stag.
Yeah.
That's swag. That's a hat. You're cozy.
So in how would you want those mitigated for?
I think that to be consistent with the tree preservation bylaw.
I mean, I'd leave
So dead
a
trees,
snag.
that would be great.
Yeah.
That's
Stags are
very
great.
valuable from a wildlife
Yeah.
habitat standpoint. So
Because you don't
if
have
you
to
want to
worry.
identify, and we can take a look at this too, but it would be helpful to note on that chart, if they're dead or they're damaged.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the intent on, once I get it all located, come out and say, okay, here's the elevation at this tree, I need to be at this elevation in relation to what it is now.
Yeah.
And we can look and we can say, is it a tree that can be saved?
Right.
Because inside of that basin, I mean, it's not, some of those trees aren't close to houses, so if we can try to save it.
How do you save a tree inside a basin that's being regraded?
They wouldn't be saved.
You mean,
inside the
you're
basin.
talking about along the
On-
edge?
Along the edge,
Yeah, that
they would
back
just-
edge.
So there's a berm here.
Yeah, you noted that on the back edge, maybe you can save.
Right.
Right, yeah.
It's like,
And all the trees beyond, so this is the proposed tree line here, all the trees beyond that in relation to the infiltration basins will
You
remain.
could, yeah.
So,
Uh,
and it's
question?
just a matter of a difference of grading, what's being cut, what's being
Right.
filled, and hence the.
What can
trees.
survive the grading?
Yeah, exactly.
Question, Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, are these going to be on town sewer or are these test pits for septic systems?
Each lot will have a private on-site septic system.
Okay, so that has implications for tree removal too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that infiltration basin, that is designed to hold runoff from the extension of Sunnyside Lane.
That's correct. Yep, the majority of the roadway, and then also the individual driveways on each
Okay,
lot.
that was cool.
So
Yep,
it's-
and it also includes, I'm sure CPW looked at this, but it also includes the runoff that comes from, was it 31 Sunnyside?
Yes, it does. Yep,
So anything you touch new, you've got to bring up to the town standards, right?
exactly.
That's why the drainage
Correct.
kind of kicks,
Yeah.
starts at a
Yep.
certain point in the.
Any
where your work
new
is. Yeah,
impervious area,
yeah,
yeah. has
and you
been-
loop in the water. Yeah.
Yes. And engineering has reviewed the plans.
Okay.
So no major comments from them.
Great. Okay, so I guess just timing in regard to just pulling off some of the stuff and focusing on just the basin and.
Yep, so
trees
revised
and-
plan, and then we do want to, just to be clear, we do want to mitigate the trees now under this filing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want a list and locations.
Again, just
shown.
related to the,
Just related to the basin.
yeah, this
yes.
file. Yep, yep.
Mhm.
So timing wise, what are you guys comfortable with?
I mean, we'll try to get it in Friday by noon. We'll shoot for
Okay.
that.
Great.
If we need a little more time,
Then-
I think we would just need more time talking about maybe tree mitigation, but the goal will be to get it in by
Okay.
noon on Friday.
All right,
So Delia, when we say we're talking about tree mitigation, are we talking the number of trees in location or just the number of trees?
Well, I think it would help to have the location with the goal of where they are, coming out in the 50 to 100 that they're replaced in that area or closer.
so we're talking about
Area.
kind of just area location of those trees or specific location of those trees?
Usually we see it on a plan. We
Yeah.
usually see the specific locations. I mean, is that a problem?
I don't know. I
Okay.
think that it would be better to do it on site. I think
Yep.
the two of us could go on site. Okay, this is gonna be nice, but I have
Right,
no
I
issue
mean-
putting it on a plan.
Well, we could do that, but probably not by Friday.
No, so we'll put it on the plan and then
Okay.
with the understanding that I can come back to you and say,
Yep.
come on out, then you shovel.
Yep.
Yep.
Bring my shovel? Why am I bringing a shovel?
Good deal.
What, we're replacing the trees out there now?
You're moving them.
planting a flag.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Got our marching
Ed,
orders.
may I
Yes,
suggest,
Sarah,
may I just suggest we ask if there's any public comments? I see
Oh, yes.
Sue's on the line.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Is there any public comment regarding this application? All right, hearing none.
Nope,
Oh.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you hopefully next time around.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time. I know.